JMT team.
Yeah.
We can't count you.
Sorry.
Just for today?
I did try to contact her today, I didn't have an opportunity, but she's not coming tonight, here, I'm saying she's online.
David and Brady.
We're sitting in the back row over here.
Yeah, let's just gather.
Anyone want to reach out to a task force member?
Friend,
Phone a friend?
phone a friend.
There is a traffic jam on those roads, so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I thought so. The 29 northbound was a mess. If anybody's direction
From somewhere. It wasn't great either. Yeah. Did you hear from Renee? She comes.
Sure. Yeah,
She said she was.
So Sharon just joined, so we're at.
All right, so we are at 11, which we do have quorum in our task force. Linda, I don't know if as you, not as our others, if you would like to kick us off and then certainly wrap us up at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for sticking with us over these 12 months. We had a full circle moment tonight with our wildlife sighting, according to Kristen, outside kind of wrapping us up. We started with the nutria, we ended with a groundhog. I don't know if that's a better animal or not, but just like with this process, we started with just kind of information gathering and understanding of what Newtown zoning does and does not do, and how to maybe move the needle forward as far as the zoning goes, and just streamlining it and making it better all around for the Newtown area. So thank you again for all your hard work and patience with us as we worked through this. It's challenging having 21 people with different thought processes and different ideas of what an outcome should look like. So I also want to thank our team with JMT, with Jen, Toby, Scott, and Cassidy. Thank you, Cassidy, outside, for being helpful and working with you all through this process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
Yes.
Okay. All right, wonderful. So thank you, everybody, for attending in person. Because we know that there will be a motion at least for accepting the report, you do have the red and green cards. And just to note that there are several who are online. You're not seeing them up on there, but as we have name cards, even with our staff here, Howard County staff, they will be holding up their cards representing the individuals from the name card as well. So I believe is Brady back online?
Yes.
So we have Brady, Nina, Nicole, David, Sharon, and Nicole. So yes, Nicole's on there for sure. So those are the individuals who are also online. So we do have quorum, and welcome to the final meeting of Newtown Task Force. So it has been a long journey with a lot of different thoughts and opinions, as Linda had shared with us. And we really did come to walk through a lot of information. Tonight, we will be, again, our purpose, meeting number 10/10 continuation recap. Of course, approving our meeting minutes, and we will do them as two separate motions, meeting number 10 as one motion and meeting number 10 continuation. We'll talk about the overall schedule. Spoiler alert, it's the last meeting. And your expectations for this meeting. We'll go over the draft recommendations, report, and comments that have been received and some additional insights that have been received, and really have open discussion. There obviously is no homework coming out of this meeting, and the wrap up simply will be just talking through what the next steps in this process look like and really adjourning. So moving right in. As was mentioned we've talked about this every single time. We did mention this last meeting as well, that there has been another executive order 2026-06 that replaced our representative from Columbia Association with Brady, who is online. And so, of course, we are evaluating and making the recommendations as you have already done, and really looking at everything as it relates to section 125. We will come back to this at the very end, and I have gone through and looked at each of our recommendations as they've been made in their final format. That did they come back and look at this vision that was from our very first meetings a year ago in June. And I just want to pause on that because Jeff brought something up very interesting, that it was 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago this month, when there was a groundbreaking that started Newtown District. So it's really 60, my apologies, 40, 50, 60 years ago this month that started the groundbreaking on Newtown District. So it's really kind of momentous that we're wrapping up the Newtown Task Force in the month that is the anniversary of it.
66.
So with meeting number 10, so it's a groundbreaking, not the adoption of it. So with meeting number 10 and 10 continuation recap, this really is that final recommendations chart that was submitted in the report and sent out. And so just looking at this, you can see between those two meetings, we really ran through a lot of the recommendations and the final the draft recommendations coming out of all of the PSET analysis and then moving into all of our recommendations discussion. This is not to go over step by step. You've already reviewed it in the report. You've certainly been here to talk about it through the recommendations themselves. And you can see the number of recommendations that have passed, those that passed with various guide rails associated with them, several that failed as well after additional discussion. Some failed from additional discussion, some failed from a lack of emotion or not enough in favor. So certainly there was a lot of well thought out discussion that went into all of this. And so that's been our last two meetings, two very long meetings, and very much appreciate the amount of conversation and input that went into all of that. So now looking at our prior meeting approvals, we do have two to bring up. So I do want to ask, is there a motion to approve task force number 10 meeting minutes? So Ryan moves that. Is there a second? Joan seconds. All those in favor, you can go ahead and put your thumbs up, raise your green cards. All those in favor signify with a green card or putting your hands up. All right, or anyone opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve task force number 10 continuation meeting minutes? This was our kind of middle of the May virtual meeting. So Fran moves it. Is there a second? Ryan seconds it. All those in favor, please put your green cards up or your hands up. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. So our overall schedule, we've seen this many times. We are here at the end of the report, our final task force meeting. The final report will be provided to the county in June, which is this month as well. So once any revisions or additions based on tonight's task force meeting will be incorporated, and that will be passed along to the county. Tonight is all about finalizing those recommendations report.
When you say it's being delivered to the county, can you be more specific about the entities?
Sure, so it will actually go into, from JMT side, it goes into Department of Planning and Zoning, and I'll talk at the next steps that we'll also just be sharing a synopsis of it to the planning board.
Does it go to the county executive?
It will as well, go on to the county council members and county executive.
It goes to the council?
Yes.
You will send a report off.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So with that, we come to open discussion, and just to share a little bit with open discussion content. So as we've gone through this process, the final recommendations have been approved. We've gone through the discussions, we've gone through that process. As you've been reviewing the report, and your homework was to review it by the end or by yesterday and be prepared to speak to it. If there are any additional recommendations that you want to have considered in any manner, it's something that we do need to see these in writing. So that is something I know, and I'll just mention Fran has had some conversation and put something potential forward, so we can have that, or you can also just be writing them up on the board as we have that. The things that we want to just make sure of is additional recommendations are intended to be guide rails or something that might be in addition to some of the conversations that we've had, but we're not changing the content or the intent of the final recommendations already approved. So the idea of this meeting is, as we're looking at these recommendations and everybody's now reviewed it in totality in the report. One, if there's questions you have about the report, bring that forward. But two, if there's something of, I really think we wanted to look at some guide rails, let's discuss that. And then we'll put that forward as a motion. Does that make sense for everybody? Yes.
So if I want to make a motion, I gotta scribble it down on a piece of paper and hand it to you?
Or we can put it up there. It's just to make sure that we are able to all see what it is.
Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and we can certainly come up here and write it so everybody can see it, but it's a part of it's just the documentation of it as well.
That's fine, I just was confused.
Okay, yes, and Greg.
Yeah, I have a motion I'd like to make.
Okay, well, we're gonna actually, before we do that, because there's a couple that came in first,
Okay.
from conversations that had occurred via email, so we'll go to those and then go to full open discussion for it.
Were we supposed to be communicating with you during the time we got the draft?
You certainly could have been.
I thought we weren't allowed to do that because it's supposed to be a public meeting.
It was coming to us, not going to everybody else. That's the difference. You could certainly ask clarifying questions, or mention that you had something you wanted to bring forward.
Okay, so, but you guys didn't comment back.
Correct. We answered questions. We didn't comment back. It's no different than during the whole process. Somebody might have asked for a clarifying question or asked a clarifying question, and somebody on the team would provide either the resource to find it or be able to answer that question.
But I got something to do with more like the structure of it, how people were gonna view this.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead through first on the few comments that we know of already, if you can hand that back to Toby. So we'll go Fran and Brady, and then come back to you, Greg. And then from that, we'll open it up to comments regarding the report. So I'm just gonna introduce Fran of, she had put something in with the concerns about the density, not the recommendations of it, but whether the appropriate guide rails were there. And we did say at the last meeting that based on the timing, we did want to come back to this during this meeting. And so the density cap in village centers were recommendation 20 and 21. We do have it, it's very small up on the front, and I can always go back to the actual recommendations. And then I'll actually let you speak to it, Fran. And then I do have the verbiage that you had provided, so I could type it right into here. Would you like to speak? Yes.
Okay, so I found a problem between 20 and 21. 21 says, consider including village centers from the new town-wide density cap. But in 20, we said not to maintain the current one. That means right now, it's 2.5, but we don't really know what it might be from the group that follows us.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I think, in my opinion, that doing that sends the wrong message to people who follow us, that there is a limit. I'd like it to be higher. My motion actually gives a number, and there's some calculations with for each 0.1, another 1,427 units. One of the recommendations we made is that we want some optional housing designs that weren't here 60 years ago, right? For example, last night, the county council approved cottage clusters for seniors. What they are single 900 to 1,500 single-story homes, like in a rectangle, no amenities, less space between them, but it's not a townhome, it's not a plex, it's not an apartment, it's something new. However, because they're close to each other, it will have an effect on I know density is not by development, but if we're going to do this, and I think these are wonderful things to do for seniors who would like to stay in their neighborhood or their village, that it'll affect the overall density. So I proposed 2.8. And I did that because I thought it was around 4,200 among 10 villages, maybe not counting town center, that gave about at least 400 units in each one that would then hopefully be cottage clusters, maybe something different. But we would be able to do it, say something about density. I'm an advocate for housing and for, I was chair of the age-friendly housing, and this has been recommended, not the density, but cottage clusters, triplexes, quadplexes since 2022. And this is our chance to bring that forward. So that's why I did it.
Thank you, Fran. And just something to note, the comment of 20 and 21, so maintain the density cap of 2.5 dwelling units per acre as is. That motion failed, which essentially took out that we are maintaining that. And we did not have a guide rail put in at that time to say kind of what a recommendation might be for it. These two can still coexist together, because there could be something else that's looked at, and in whatever it is that might be looked at from what failed of maintaining the density cap, and whatever that future recommendation is, you could still consider excluding village centers from the new town-wide density cap. So I wanted to clarify that, as that had come up in conversation at the last meeting. Going back and to this, so the potential in the discussion, and you really provided some background to it. I don't know if at this time, if you would like to make this as a motion for a guide rail.
Am I making an amendment to 20 or what am I making?
You would simply be making a recommendation as a guide rail for the density cap.
So before we do that, like before we actually make a motion and vote on something, can we maybe have an open discussion about this, please? I'd really like to know the people that would maybe oppose this. What about it do you oppose? And like, let's come to a consensus on what this looks like so that we can maybe come to a real guardrail that everybody is in support of. Can we do that?
We can certainly do it in that manner, and actually we've done it that way in that manner. You could also do it as a motion in a second and then discussion, but we'll go ahead and I'll turn it to Joan first. And then those who want to speak, if you're online, go ahead and raise your hands, and those in the room will let me know what what order it is.
Oh,
So I
sorry.
understand Fran's concern about removing the 2.5 cap. But the thought that just adding 4,000 additional units in Columbia over the next 30 years, plus the 1,600 that are still around, it, in my opinion, is insufficient to accommodate. You could use those 400 units in a village with one mid-rise apartment building. One higher rise apartment building could take away all the units in a particular village. I think that I'm not sure there needs to be a density cap, but if there does need to be a density cap, I think that we aren't today in a position to choose what that number would be. I think it might be more beneficial to indicate that additional discussion is needed. Whether it be, whether staff goes and looks at, what happens if we make it 3.5? What happens if we make it 5? What happens if we don't do it at all? What are the options? I think that it's not giving all the details at this point to make a decision to simply raise it to 2.8.
Brady has raised her hand, so we'll come up to Brady. And then just something to note in here, while it still says excluding village centers, Brady's gonna be up here with Jeff.
That's all right, being it done, they had raised their.
I apologize, I did not see that board. We'll go to Brady and then to Renee. If you can come up here to Jeff, I'm sorry, Brady, yeah.
I think it's online.
Yes, thank you. And just something to note, as we say excluding village centers in here, that recommendation has already passed. That village centers will be excluded from the density cap. So go ahead, Brady.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was just gonna kind of point that out and speak to the fact that the village centers already are going to be possibly considered for removal. So we could phrase the guardrails in order to, I guess, solidify that in a way, perhaps like maintain the density cap of 2.5 dwelling units other than areas identified as activity centers or something along those lines. I don't know, but that would, I guess, maybe get the best of both worlds. I don't know. I didn't know if it was a concern more about the density overall, like having a cap, if that was the problem, or if it was actually not, or having a cap within the village centers that was a problem.
We will go to Renee and then Nina and then Karen and then Ryan. And then just something to note with that, I think, and Fran, I'll just ask you to kind of correct me if I'm wrong. I think the concern is not, because with the recommendations, the density cap has been, the recommendation of maintain as is failed, which means the recommendation is not having a density cap. And I know the concern Fran had brought up at the last meeting was, well, should we put something in there? And she was looking into that and brought that forward. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm not tied to a number. I think there has to be one.
Yeah.
I really think we will hurt Columbia if we don't put something there.
So-
I have some other data that you can talk about what it's like at the Crescent, and if it's fully built and the 22, they're large numbers. And without it, I'm afraid that's what's going to happen, because there's nothing that says it can't. So it seems to me, the neighborhoods that are single family homes or town, they want to maintain that. And I think we need a guardrail.
So the idea behind it really comes down to, there were no guardrails, guide rails, however you want to say it, when that motion failed. There was nothing else that was put in there other than the fact of the due diligence moving forward is what should it look like. So we'll go then through Renee, Nina, Karen, Ryan, and then Greg.
Thank you.
So I'm coming back to the same place I was when I started this. I don't see a plan. Okay, I see Gateway, which needs to be developed or redeveloped or whatever you want to call it, which is sitting there. I understand they have a semi-plan in place and there will be some development. I see Long Reach Village Center sitting there that needs a lot of help. But what I don't see is a plan. And and Fran, I agree with you. We need guardrails. But if you put 400 units into River Hill, you're increasing my density by 20%. I'm a little tiny village, and that doesn't include my village center. So put 400 units in my village center.
It doesn't have to be equal.
I'm just saying, but put 400 units in my village center like you're going to do at Long Reach, and then add 400 units somewhere else. And I'm not sure where you're going to put us. I mean, we're going to be literally hanging from the moon. I think that this is a lack of having experts here. It's a lack of having a plan. And I'm really disappointed that we're sitting here having this discussion when we could have had some real resources brought to bear much earlier in this process and be able to say to people, okay, 200 units here, 2,000 units there, something else somewhere else. But here we are sitting here arbitrarily picking numbers out of the air, and it's really disappointing.
And I will just share back with that the task was looking at recommendations. It wasn't necessarily getting into all of the details. I know Renee wants to speak again. Getting into all of the exact details. So the guide rails could be that some of them, just thinking through it, could be taking a look at this and confirming that again with some of the space and what that looks like.
So my only comment here is, why are you so afraid to bring resources here and expertise to give us the information to make rational decisions? I'm not opposed to development. I'm really not. Just ask the people from Erickson. Okay, I fought to get a lot of units put in across the street. But this is just poorly structured right now.
Nina?
So Dina's question was,
Toby?
Nina put a question in the
Sorry.
chat. She says, I am trying to understand what the removal
Yeah,
of village
yeah.
centers from the density cap means for units available with the 2.5 at this point.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we got you,
Yes.
Nina.
So I just, like, I'm a little confused as to what we're talking about. I, I understand what people are saying, but, we've been talking about how many units are still left at 2.5 and how many more that would be at 2.8. But if we're removing the village centers, right, you know, and that might be the right thing to do if we want to direct all new residential units to village centers. That might be, you know, a way to do that. But if we're taking that, both the units that exist in village centers right now, which I think are only in Wildlife, plus the acreage out, I just don't have an understanding of whether that just increased the number of available units under the 2.5. So the recommendations that have passed already are removing, it's saying maintain the density cap of 2.5 as is.
Yes.
That failed, and that
I
came
understand
back to, and that came back to that question of, should there be something further in here? And then they consider excluding village centers from the new town-wide density cap. That passed. So again, that's something that's already as a recommendation to move forward. So really the conversation and what Fran had brought forward was, what is a potential additional guide rail or discussion that could be added to that to provide some direction? And, you know, she had looked into and had asked some questions regarding what does every 0.1% equal or equate to roughly in units per acre. And that number was right around the 1,400. And again, these are rough numbers of it that have been done and have been calculated based on Department of Planning and Zoning previously. Now, whether it is the exact number or providing a direction such as additional study considerations for building out essentially contact zones, as State Highway Administration has looked at in different areas where you have, and kind of that traditional planning, which is really what Columbia and the villages were set up with, is you have the village center and you have density, and it becomes less dense as you move further away from village centers, from town centers, and looking at where that backfill is in there. You know, these are the different guide rails that could go into it. It could be a number. Fran was proposing a number. It could be a number of other things as well. Or it could be, we leave these recommendations as they are and recognize that anything that happens with these recommendations still need to go through a due diligence process with Department of Planning and Zoning. Zoning code cannot change without a full public engagement process. So these are recommendations coming here. It would have to be done during the next zoning code updates, and everything still has to go out to the community for input as well.
No, I understand that. I'm just asking sort of the basic question that if we're talking about in the alternative to keep the cap as is failed, if the recommendation is that we're discussing now is keep the cap or increase the cap to 2.8, but we have a separate, you know, recommendation that has the village centers out of that, what does that mean? Does 2.8 mean that, you know, plus removing the village centers means that there's now, you know, instead of 16,000 more units, there's, you know, 20,000 more units, or does it mean that it's 30,000 more units? Or because the acreage has gone down, does it mean it's not 16,000 more units, it's 12,000 more units? I'm trying to understand that in order to make any sort of reasonable vote about whether 2.8 is the right number.
Right, so it's 1,600, not 16,000.
1,600, sorry.
Thank you, Joe.
Take a zero out of all of the things I said.
Right. Yeah, well, I think that's a number that scared everybody for a moment. So it's, and I know the question you're asking, and we don't have the exact calculation built here, but the idea is, yes, the recommendation is to exclude village centers. So whatever that density cap might be from a recommendation, it would exclude those village centers. Now, what that looks like specifically, That's where the due diligence and the additional studies come into play. So I'm gonna, hopefully Nina, that answered your question. I do wanna make sure we get to the other comments in the room as well. So Nina, it's a non-answer, I recognize that.
No, I just don't, I respect it. I respect the process. I don't feel like I have enough information to determine if 2.8 is or is not the right number. I hear what a lot of people say about guardrails. I just don't think, at least I'm in a position to talk about, to make a decision on what that guardrail should be.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nina. We have Karen, then Ryan, then Greg.
Yeah, I'm gonna reiterate what Renee and Nina just said, is that we don't have what we need. So for example, when we're talking about these density caps, and Fran is being, I mean, very well intentioned, I know what she wants to do. But I think of it in terms of how long does it take me to travel from one end of Columbia to the other? And I think I said this in our last meeting is, what does it mean for a parent to get home and get their kid to soccer practice, to swim practice, to football practice? And can they still do that when we add all this density? 2.5 has been a very good number. We were all in a traffic jam on the way here. It wasn't because of a car accident. It was just extra traffic on the road. And part of it is we've got Bland Air, which has added a lot of activity in that one area. So when people are trying to get onto Oakland Mills Road from Kilimanjaro or Farewell, it takes a lot of extra time because there's a lot more traffic due to all of the games that are going on. We all love sports. But what does it mean for the parents who now can't get off work in time to get home, get their kids into the car and get them to their soccer practice? Columbia was built as a participatory community. We have cluster mailboxes for a reason. So we can put all these seniors in these cottages, but if they can't go to the grocery store, what is the point? You know, that's the kind of information we don't have. The other thing we don't have is how much hotter is all this extra density going to make our environment? We already had hazardous algae blooms at Centennial Lake and Lake Kinnamaquindi and Lake Elkhorn over the past couple of years where people couldn't even use those areas. There were certain areas that were sectioned off because it was so dangerous. Well, it's the high rises that were built in Meriwether District are contributing to the heat that we're collecting. So all of this information that I'm sharing with you right now is just anecdotal. These are just questions that I have. If I add this density, what does it do to my traffic times? What does it do to the wear and tear on my life? You know, not everybody wants to spend 45 minutes in their car commuting 5 miles. I mean, that's ridiculous. So 2.8 units may be the right number, but how do we know? How do we know? Why change it from 2.5 to 2.8 at all until we actually have that information? And to say we're going to make these recommendations based on no information at all, just a gut feeling, I feel like we need more. Because we need more housing. Okay, we need more housing, but are we doing it the right way so that we can still maintain the lifestyle that everybody moved here for in the first place? I think we're missing that entirely.
Jennifer, after Ryan and Greg, Brady.
Yes, I saw Brady. And then what we're going to do based on time, and Fran, I'll come back to you at the end.
There is no 2.5 is the problem.
No,
Right,
I
okay.
I agree. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted
So
to.
let's
Vote on 20
let's
or do something.
let's go ahead and we're gonna go to Ryan, Greg, we'll go to Brady, and then in the interest of time, because there's been a lot of, we're getting into some repeat comments as well. What we need to do is then move forward with this. Of whether we're going to move forward with this
Well,
or
can we
not.
make a comment on this, on these recommendations? Can there be an extra comment? I will move that we make an extra comment on these, that the group does not feel that they have the information necessary in order to make this recommendation.
I'll second that.
Well, I'm gonna first go to Ryan, Greg, and then Brady in the order that I had said, and then we can come back about a motion for it. Cause that's what we'll do at that time. But because I'd already cited those individuals, I wanna make sure that they had their chance to be heard. And then we are going to come to some kind of a conclusion on this discussion, whether it is that motion, however we look at this. So Ryan? And then you can just pass it forward to Greg after.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just fundamentally don't understand where the idea is coming from that voting against recommending maintaining the 2.5 cap turns that into like a, like free for all, open density, unlimited density. I don't see the recommendation or voting against the recommendation of maintaining as voting for unlimited. Like, I see what you're saying if we were making laws, but we are like not changing the regulations, right? Like, I feel like the people coming after us will see us voting against that recommendation maintaining and look at the comments that we have and the documentation that we have and go,
What do you think it says to them when you say do not maintain the 2.5? What do you think
So,
that says?
Fran, I'm gonna just ask for order, please. Everybody has their right to speak to
That's
this.
a valid question. I mean, I think the message that that sends is we should reevaluate that 2.5 number. And then because, as the coordinator was saying, like this goes, you know, this will be submitted to the county council, the county executive, there will be a legislative process with public input, like we'll have experts looking at that. And I actually agree with Renee and Karen here that I don't think we have the information to like pick a number, you know? So I just don't, like, I don't necessarily understand the fear that we are voting for unlimited density by voting against maintaining the 2.5 cap. Like, those are different ideas in my mind. So, yeah.
Greg, microphone's coming to you.
I am just specifically responding to Brandy because she's new with us.
Brady.
Or Brady, rather. Hi, Brady. And other people have heard my comments on this. I would be, specifically Brady said, I'd like to know why other people might not vote for this. So my response to that is, I would not vote for this for the same reasons I didn't vote for recommendation number 21. And that is anything above the 2.5 cap violates the covenants, violates the scheme of development that was done for Columbia all those years ago, which are under the scheme of development, the mutual reciprocal servitudes that support that, negative reciprocal servitudes, and the underlying covenants are in fact the law. Zoning and covenants are two different things in the real estate world, but the covenants are the law, and to go beyond 2.5 at this point in time, I don't think can be done legally, and therefore I would be voting against it.
Thank you. And then Brady, you had your hand up.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for providing that context. I really do appreciate that insight. My question was, I guess, more focused on the last failed recommendation, which is to keep the density cap instead of Fran's recommendation of having a new density cap, if you will. But I definitely appreciate that context. Thank you. Honestly, guys, I'm afraid that these recommendations might have just been put in the wrong order, and had 21 and 20 been swapped, we might not even be having to have this discussion. But unfortunately they were not. And so here we are. And the first one had 0 guardrails. And because nobody proposed additional guardrails, now there are none. And so I have concerns, I suppose, well, not concerns, but questions about what that looks like. To Nina's point of what the density could possibly be once you remove that acreage. We don't have enough information. So I think at this point, we need to make a decision as to whether or not there is a way for us to provide guardrails, and if that is something that the group desires overall, without a number. Like, you know, for example, is there a desire to keep a density of 2.5 at any point throughout Newtown? Or is everybody in agreement that it should be higher, but we have not enough information in order to make an actual decision as to what that number should be?
Can I make a friendly amendment to Fran's motion?
Absolutely. I was gonna do a point of clarification as well, so let's do that first.
Going back to the density cap issue that we're talking about here, it's been raised 2 other times before. It originally started at 2.0, then went to 2.3, and now to 2.5. So just to say that that was illegal or not appropriate, we've already raised it multiple times. So I just wanted to make you all aware that that has been something that has been done and can be done and applied.
Yeah. And one of the other things just to share, and Brady, I know, you're coming in with really the last 2 meetings plus this one. There's been a lot of conversation going back and forth as to the whys and why nots of maintaining the density cap as is. And a lot of that discussion came down to some of the things that you're hearing here this evening of, wanting to really, that's the next due diligence step in this with removing the maintained density cap is that study of, well, where does it go? What does it look like? How is it? And keeping in mind, there's still, this is section 125 of zoning code. There's still all of Howard County zoning code as well.
Can I make a friendly amendment? If Fran, are you gonna make your motion eventually? Cause I'll make a friendly amendment to it, is that I think that Karen.
Microphone.
I thought that was Renee asking to say something. Yeah, I just would like to make a friendly amendment, because I think that what you're saying here is I would take the 2.8 out. And what I would just basically say is that there needs to be serious analysis done of the density cap, including whether or not changing it is a violation of the covenants. Because I believe that what Linda said is not wrong, that the density cap did change, but it changed while we were still building Columbia out. And so once Columbia is done, you cannot change that anymore. That density cap is pretty much solid. Greg is right, the covenants protect that. So I think that there needs to, I think what I would say here, Fran, is that for impact's sake, the density cap needs to be studied to see what would be the impact on residents if we raise the density cap, including whether or not whether or not it's allowed under the covenants.
And also to consider new denser type of housing.
So there,
That's the other thing.
great,
I'm fine with how we change it.
okay, so there has not been an actual motion made yet. So we can write this as and we're gonna do something kind of fun here, right? We're gonna pretend it's kind of fun.
Go ahead and edit it. To say this.
You've kind of been saying it out loud. You wanna?
The density cap for Newtown should be evaluated to allow for new denser type of housing and for its conformance with current covenants. Is that good, Karen?
Yeah, with covenants, yes, and and if it can be changed, then what is its impact on the residents of Columbia?
And to yeah, that's good. That gets it all on all the ends, And kind of like in Gateway, there was a lot of that too, so it makes sense.
All right, so as this is, I just want to make sure I have the language in here. The density cap for Newtown should be evaluated to allow for new denser type of housing, new denser type of housing, and for its conformance with covenants, and to identify housing, I just want to, or not to have the run-on sentence, and to identify the impacts to the residents of Columbia.
I think it has to say new residents of Newtown. You can't say
The
Columbia.
residents of,
Okay, and then, new denser type, we should say that as, I don't make it too long, but as envisioned in the general plan. Because that's where it comes from.
that's a great reference.
Why do we think that anything that we say is gonna undo a recorded covenant?
Well, they shouldn't.
It can't, so anyway, I'll stay out of it. Just
Basically, the
talking
comment
for
there is,
50 minutes about something I don't think has any meaning, because I don't think that anything that we can do is gonna undo a recorded covenant.
yeah, so basically your comment, David, if I understand, is basically, we really don't need to say for its conformance with covenants, because we wouldn't have that in there, and I mean, it can't.
Well, I actually think that's important, and the reason I think it's important is because there's a disagreement in this room about covenants. I don't think that anything that we've done can be changed. I mean, any of these recommendations, none of them can be done because they violate the covenants, but there's a disagreement in this room about that. So I think we need to put that in there so that there's some acknowledgement that there are covenants.
It doesn't matter to me. I was just calling it to your attention.
I think that's important too.
So I do want to just ask real quick because I want to get this as a formal motion and a second, so we can have some discussion and go to a vote. So I believe, Fran, this is the motion that you're making. And Karen is seconding this. So let's just have some quick discussion, and then we can come to a question, call the question if we need to. So Ryan.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna reiterate what Dave said. I feel like any analysis of the density cap changes are already going to consider, you know, impacts to residents of Columbia, legality. I mean, we already have recommendation 14 that passed that's talking about missing middle housing types, which would be denser housing types. So I guess I'm confused as to why we need this motion again. Also, I'm still confused as to why we're talking about covenants, because this is like a county zoning regulation thing. That's the restriction of the task force, so it's private. But
So it's restrictive of the two.
We'll go to Brian and then Fran. And then Nina.
I just want to back up on what Linda said about when the density was changed. It was changed because 1,000 acres of the Middle Patuxent environmental area was going to be housing. And so they tweaked the number from 2.5 to 2.8, I believe. So that was an example of changing density. So it was a quid pro quo, right? So
Fran and then Nina.
I support this motion because it doesn't set a number. We don't have enough, it's clear a lot of people here don't think we have enough of a number, enough information for a specific number, but it says to evaluate it, and it tells them, it gives them some guidelines on how to evaluate. We're giving them criteria. That's why we need it. We can't just not do it because I don't know how it'll be interpreted, and so I want to make sure it gets interpreted to the majority of the people who are here and the people who live in Newtown.
Nicole has a comment.
Okay, so we'll go Nina and then Nicole. And then what I'd like to do is move this forward because we do have another comment. Nina's online and Nicole's online.
I put my comment in the chat. I mean, I just, that's fine. People can read it.
Yeah, I can read it out. So Nina stated covenants are contractual and not impacted by zoning unless somehow the zoning is more restrictive.
Lowered her hand, so I don't know if that also could be in her remarks as well.
Nicole, did that cover your remarks?
I'll just go ahead and say I agree with that I don't think we should be addressing covenants in any of this because that's not what we're here to talk about. And I think that this guardrail should really just be if we don't have sufficient information to set a new number and make it kind of a simple guardrail in that respect, because I think that's really what everyone's saying. That's it.
We have gone through a lot of comments, and the motion that is on the floor is as noted in black on the screen at the bottom. I do want to call to vote on this, seeing no other comments coming in. And so everybody, so if you are online, you will do it with a thumbs up. And we have individuals in the room who are representing you with their green card, so they'll be able to see your thumbs up and put up a green card. So all in favor of this motion as a guide rail being added in, please put up a green card online, put your thumbs up.
It will be hand raised, not thumbs up, because the thumbs up kind of just disappears after just a few seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, hand
So,
raised.
Thank you, yeah. Brady did give a thumbs up. I just.
All right, was that, can you please?
I
in the
did, it
room put your-
disappeared.
Yeah,
put
it
your
goes by
green-
quick. It
Green
goes by
cards
quick.
up again, so we have. Tim, did, oh, and then, so I have 9 in favor, and those who are opposed, please put up your red card. And I have 3 opposed. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Thank you for the discussion, for bringing this forward. And so this will be the motion that gets added into the report. The next comment was, it was a comment received by Brady about the definition of open space, which comes to recommendation 8A. And Brady, if you could speak to this.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to bring up some concerns that Columbia Association had, and specifically surrounding the new town definition, or what the new town definition of open space will be, since the definition was voted to not keep. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get you a number. I think it
There it
was
is.
number 8. Thank you.
Yeah, it's 8A.
Right. So
Is what
8A
passed.
passed, and
It's on the screen.
8A, but there was one that failed, right? So 8B failed.
Mhm.
No,
There are
no,
2
there was
that failed. I do
another
have them
one.
on the
Oh, it was
screen.
number 9. Number 9 failed. So number 9, which was maintaining the current definition of open space, that failed. And so right now, there's really kind of a question mark as to around what that definition of open space looked like. And I apologize to the group because I do understand that I'm late to the game. Perhaps there were additional conversations that I was not privy to that would have provided context. However, as is, we want to ensure that the open space can continue to remain reactive to the community's desires, because that is what Columbia Association is here to do. And so that's supposed to be able to change over time. And as you guys know, there's a lot of different uses currently allowed underneath of open space, which may or may not make it into that new definition of open space. And so I wanted to bring to the table the fact that Columbia Association owns a significant amount of acreage of that 36% requirement. And if we're taking out schools, I don't know as to whether or not schools are going to be included, but that's a large, significant amount of acreage as well. And we voted to further define the open space definition, but didn't really provide any guardrails as to what that looks like. And so I wanted to bring up the topic once more for discussion so that we can provide a little bit more guardrail guidance around what that definition could look like. And I do have a proposed motion, but I'm also happy to have a conversation about it and open it up to the floor if that is more appropriate.
So let's go ahead and just as a reminder, and I'm not sure if you're seeing the screen, so the recommendations about the definition of open space are 8A, 8B, and 9. So just as that quick reminder, and on the slide, 8A is the one that did pass that says define open space in the Newtown zoning district to provide greater clarity of uses. And that's really in the conversation that happened over time through this process was exactly as you're speaking to, is that there are a lot of different definitions, and people think about open space, and many people think green space as open space, but the reality is open space is a lot of different things. And the reason in the conversation of this passing was to be able to provide a little bit greater clarity in the zoning code to specifically to what that was. And so because this one passed, maintain the current definition is the one that failed because there was the desire to have some revisions to the language, not necessarily the uses, but the language of what that clarity of uses is. And then the other one that you see fails because no motion was made, 8B, that one failed. Obviously, no motion was made. There was not enough support for that. and it was the line accredited open space definition with other county zoning district definitions, and the conversation behind that one was that it is different within Newtown. There are some different uses, and not wanting to just blanket put the remainder of the zoning code into the Newtown zoning code. So I wanted to come to that, and then we'll come down here. What I will do, and I'll do this for all, because I know, Greg, you have one after this as a motion, and I'll just type it in here of the language that you were looking at. We'll have some quick discussion, and then we'll go into actually taking the motion, the second, and the vote.
Sure. So I had proposed I had language for two different proposed motions. One was an 8C, which would be, I guess, in alignment with your 8A, but the other was a 10A to support the 36% requirement. But I'll go ahead and I'll just pop that right into the chat. I think that would probably be easier.
That would be wonderful. I would appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely.
Pull this back out again to see. Okay.
So this was actually the language for 10A, which is kind of in support. 10 was maintain the required 36% open space. So this is 10A, kind of in support of that. Ensure that that 36% open space requirement includes a definition of open space, which recognizes the full range of recreational, environmental, cultural, and community serving functions that are currently allowed, including membership-based facilities and services which are found to promote the social welfare of the community. And that is how our open spaces are currently operated and managed. They are funded partly by assessment dues, but also in part by revenue that we get from our membership sales. And so being able to keep that in mind, considering we are the stewards of many of these acres of open space. Currently, I think we own over 66% of it. So it's just something to take into consideration. And I wanted to bring that to the task force.
Okay, so this is the potential motion. Here is the one you put in: ensure the 36% open space requirement includes a definition of open space which recognizes the full range of recreational, environmental, cultural, and community serving functions currently allowed, including membership-based facilities and services which are found to promote the social welfare of the community. So the ensure the 36% open space requirement, that is in and of itself a standalone. And then the other is about the definition of it, which the recommendation was provide clarity. So really you're looking at providing the clarity, saying that this should include this definition. It's not saying this is the definition, but it should include a definition.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with 8A then.
We'll put it in of, it would be a guide rail then with 8A. Correct. Yeah, 10 is complete in we'll maintain the 36% open space. So this really does go towards 8A. Ryan, his hand is up, and then Joan, and then Renee. Right now we have it as a potential motion, so let's just converse just doing the same process as we have done. We'll have a couple quick comments, and then if there are no further comments, we'll do the actual motion the second and then go to vote. Ryan.
Yeah, I'm really glad that CA chimed in. I know members of the task force, I think Brian was really wanting CA to chime in on some of these, so I'm happy that we got that feedback. I do want to say, I'm pretty sure I was the one that opposed 8A for precisely this reason, because I think the current definition provides the flexibility to, for a variety of use cases that are currently here, and I think that everybody views the open space and as it currently is in Columbia as a strength. I don't think there was a good argument that there was serious deficiencies in that. So I'm glad CA was able to chime in. So
thank you so much. I couldn't vote at that meeting. Sorry, guys.
A good definition of open space was something that I have been asking for from the beginning of this task force. I am thrilled to see something that so clearly indicates why Columbia and Newtown is different from the rest of Howard County. I am very happy to see this recommendation, and I am willing to make the motion or second it, however.
Okay. I think Renee, you wanted to second, did you have any comments of it? All right, so, I am gonna just make the one comment. I highlighted in red the 36% because that's already listed in zoning code. I would recommend that that be removed from this because you already have listed in there of a 30% requirement of open space. So this is truly, and what recommendation 8A is truly just what is the definition of open space? And you have a recommendation that says ensure that maintain the 36% open space. So just real quick thoughts on that. Renee, I saw you had an immediate reaction. It's redundant. Okay. I just wanted to ensure that you all recognized it was redundant. If you don't have issues, I will change that back.
I'll just say, I know it's redundant. The reason why I put that in there specifically was because it's regarding credited open space, and that 36% open space requirement is not currently just credited open space, is it? Or no, I'm sorry. We didn't talk about what was going to be removed from credited open space. So I want to make sure that entire 36% open space includes all of these uses that I'm talking about. Do you hear what I'm saying? So like my concern is that credited open space will be, I don't know, maybe just conservation open space, right?
Let me go back to the actual recommendation listed up here.
But I mean, I'm not going to die on that hill. If you guys want to remove it in order to move it forward, that's okay.
Yeah, we just have maintained required 36% open space. Yes, because the credited is what we had failed with no motion. So let me go to, Nina has a question in the chat.
Nina had a question. What about membership facilities such as gyms that are in Newtown but not CA? I'm not against the motion, but I'm confused as to what we are trying to do here. But I agree more clarity is good, though I think planning staff might be better suited.
Those are considered commercial properties. They're not considered open space.
Correct. And,
So
you know,
Nina, I don't know if you were able to hear that. The answer was those are considered commercial properties, not open space when it's not when it's private membership based.
It's not owned by CA. It's not considered open space.
and I just want to reiterate that promotes social welfare of the community. Like that's language that's kind of specific to motions that are passed by our board. So it really speaks to CA owned open space in a more subtle way.
Brady, would you like to make this as a motion?
Yes, please.
All right, so the motion as noted is ensure the 36% open space requirement includes a definition of open space which recognizes the full range of recreational, environmental, cultural, and community serving functions currently allowed, including membership-based facilities and services which are found to promote the social welfare of the community. So the motion has been made by Brady, seconded by, I think, a lot of people, but I'll put Joan. All right, so all those in favor, please raise your hand or your green card in the room, your hand online. All right, I have 11 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your red card or your hand online. And if you had put yes, I'm in favor of it, make sure your hand goes down. All right. It's all a hand. It's like an auction house in here. All right, who put their hand up? All right. So motion passes. Thank you. So we next come to Greg, who had a motion. So Toby, if you can. Wonderful.
I'm gonna state the motion first before,
If
let me pass out the paper and then we can.
Do you have the motion on the paper as well? Okay, if I can have it so I can start typing it in here, that would be best. And then you can speak to it and others will help you pass it out. Thank you. Yeah, so if you wanna take the, and you have the microphone, so go ahead, Greg, and start discussing and we'll make sure it gets passed out to everybody.
Is there a way for us to get it online?
I am about to type it in here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, the motion, as it's written, pretty well, covers itself. It says, for those of you who are online, it says, given that proposed changes to Newtown zoning being considered by the Newtown Task Force may substantially impact the lives of all residents and property owners of Columbia, and in the interest of ensuring that said recommendations of the task force are given the widest possible circulation and opportunity for public engagement, I move that the final report of the Newtown Task Force, including any dissents generated by one or more members of this task force, be delivered only as proposed recommendations to all Columbia Village boards for review, consideration, and response until May 1st, 2027, at which time the report, dissents, if any, and responses, if any, be incorporated into the final report and be delivered to the county executive and county council as the actual final report of the task force.
I second that.
All right. Yeah, they're gonna type and put it into the chat. So I do wanna just pause for a moment so we can get it in writing for those online as well. So we are gonna pause in this. Now, the only thing that I'm going back to right here, and with Linda being in here, she might be able to speak to this a little bit better, is I do believe in our executive orders that we have to provide a final document, the final document by the end of June 2026.
Towards the end, it has a one about the task force one. Specific to the last one.
I'm sorry, what was that, Brian?
The second to last point on there has comments about the length of the message.
Yes.
The people online for that.
So a couple of things is we're trying to get the language in as quickly as possible also. Where's the chat in here?
I mean, do you want me to just read it?
If you have the executive order handy, then I don't have to.
Okay, it says, and be it further ordered that the Newtown Task Force and the terms of its members shall cease to exist on or about September 30th, 2026. So as a procedural question, I don't know, are we allowed to vote to extend our own task force term? Yeah, okay.
Oh my goodness, all right, hold on one second. Well, you have it in, here, that's one. All right, what I'd like to do is, you had,
What's that?
so a couple of things, while you read the motion, Greg, I wanna,
I know that.
while you read the motion, what I'd like to do is the same thing we've done on the other processes, let's talk through it. So I heard the motion. I didn't acknowledge a second yet. I know you said it out loud. But let's do the same thing of talk through it and then see if there are any addendums to it and then make the motion from there. So I am, for those online, you actually have it faster than I've gotten it up here. And there we go. And thank you for everybody who was putting it. Thank you for bringing it in writing. Let me take this off real quick. All right, so here is, and I'll make this larger so everyone can see it a little bit better. Oh, there we go. So, Brian.
Yeah, so my other comment, directly to the text here, I would say, like, my understanding is that all the task force members were appointed by the various county council members who represent their districts. So there already is a bunch of representation from the public and or potentially village boards, et cetera. So I don't know why, and this is like a completely open process. We're streaming right now. There's been a bunch of like news items about it. I don't really understand why we need to send more information to review when I feel like that information is already out there and already has been communicated, so.
And on this one, did not mean to do that. Here's the actual motion. I do want to just defer to Linda if I can for a moment, just with respect to the executive orders. They do cite the term limit of the task force and they do cite the deliverable. So I just want to make sure of following a process here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. So the task force does disband September 30th of 2026. This task force cannot vote to extend their own existence, so it does terminate on such date. Furthermore, the task force shall issue a written report by May 31st, 2026. Now, obviously, we know we're a little bit beyond that, but the ideas will be.
And we had a written report.
We had the written report drafted by that time, just at the final vote on it. So I don't, again, believe that this would be a possible change that can occur under the task force's purview.
Greg.
Anything is possible. As Renee said earlier this evening, I don't know what you people are afraid of. You're afraid of the people, I think, in this particular instance. The county executive has supplemented the executive order a couple of times through this process. Why can't you all go to him and say, we've had this motion, and if the task force wanted to do this and voted to approve it, have the county executive change the initial executive order and say, this is how we're going to do it.
The amendments that we have, the addendums to the executive order have been attendance or members. I just wanted to note that the addendums, they are changes, but I do want to note that the content of them was adding another adding another task force member and then changing out a representative for a task force member. We'll go to
changing the date.
I guess what I wanted to say is I believe that there are representatives from almost every village here, that we got input from several village boards. So we have, but perhaps maybe we could do two things at once. It says that the report doesn't have to be finished to September 30th. So could we not make a motion, something like, we want to send this report to every village board, and they have to respond to you by September 1st. I mean, that doesn't violate the task force. I don't know if that's possible, but I think he wants more input. I'm trying to figure out a way to make everybody happy.
So I'll go to Ryan and then Brady. And on this one, because it is dealing with an executive order, and I don't speak to those executive orders, so I will probably defer to Linda if you're okay with that. Right.
We can always certainly run it by them.
Okay. And it would have to be at that point, a conditional, in favor of the motion, looking at potentially the dates. But let's go ahead to Ryan and then Brady.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that it sounds like Greg actually wants to submit this to the county executive to change this. So I don't know why we're voting on this specifically. I think the motion would change if Greg wants the executive to amend the charter for this task force.
If that would be necessary, in order for us to circulate it, if that is what would be necessary to circulate the drafted report and any dissents from the report that people might be wanting to offer, and to get responses from the villages. Yeah, I'd say, let's go to the county executive and ask him to extend it.
I don't think it would be necessary because you should just send it report to the board. Sounds like the motion here is actually you wanting to ask the county executive.
No, not just, well, if
All right, so I know we started into a side conversation here, and it's very hard for people online to hear if you're just talking back and forth. So the comment was, and I think we were able to hear Ryan, you had the microphone at the time of, this is really, from your viewpoint of it, the real motion here is to go to the county executive and ask for the task force to be amended to include this with the report, and perhaps looking at, we can discuss the date, but I do want to go to Brady and then Joan to make sure that we're allowing everyone to have a voice here.
Thanks. So Greg, I guess my question is about the date. Because we have until, what is it, September 30th before the report has to be finalized? Is that correct? What's the date?
September 30th is when the task force is disbanded.
Okay.
The
Does
report
it
is
say?
actually, the report is to be provided by May of 2026. So the report was completed in draft form. And then we are looking at the final report is June, but the report was completed by May of 2026, which is what it needed to be.
Okay. I guess my question is about the overall intent about this motion. Is it to get more time to be able to dig in an appropriate way? Is that what this motion is about? Or is it really just to get the pointed feedback from every single one of the village boards and for them to be aware of the process so they can inform the community?
So that,
Because if
do you
it's-
want to go, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brady.
I was just going to say, if it's the latter, I'm happy to work with you guys within the community to do that. If it's the former, then I would like to hear your reasoning behind it.
I do want to go to Greg to answer the question of the intention, and then we'll go to Joan, and then we'll go to Brian. So Greg, if you can speak to that question, because you're the one making the motion on it. So.
the intent, again, it stems from my concern for the covenants and what people have bought into coming to Columbia and how life may change for them. So I want the residents to have the opportunity for a thorough airing of the discussion that's going on, and for the villages to reply in their behalf. And I picked the date of May 1st, figuring that, nothing, not a lot might necessarily happen among the village boards over the course of the summer between now and September 30th. And people being on vacation, the residents and families and what have you, they give it an adequate amount of time for the matter to be thoroughly aired and report back for the county council and for whoever's the county executive going forward to consider.
Yeah. And just again, Brady, as you have come in later through this process, so this is not, there are no zoning, we're doing section 125, so very specifically and noted in the report. So there's nothing there of changing covenants, and that was mentioned in the report. And I just, this is not to say against that, Greg. I just wanted to offer up all of these meetings are through the Open Meetings Acts. And are posted, and we have had the 2 surveys and 2 public meetings. And again, take that as you will for public engagement, but I just wanted to acknowledge what has been completed. Not saying that takes this away or anything, but as somebody coming in newer to the process. Joan, and then right here, and then Brian, right behind Brian, and then over here to. You had your hand up also? So Karen and Tim. Okay.
So you did just mention the fact that we had 2 public meetings, we had 2 surveys in the spring and the fall, This information has been online. And, you know, sadly, the last survey did not even get a lot of response because this is a whole difficult thing to understand. We are making recommendations. We are not changing the zoning. That is not our role. The role, the county council in a legislative act will make any changes after a whole additional and new process, which every village board can respond to, every individual can respond to. We are simply making recommendations in a window of time. And at this point, I think this is just ridiculous, and I would like to call the question.
So the question has been called. But there's actually no motion on this, so my apologies, Jen. There's no.
2/3 of the people to end the discussion.
Yeah, there is no motion on the floor. This is still open discussion for it. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's Brian, behind Brian, then in front of Brian. So Brian, you're gonna be passing the mic back and forth.
Okay. Well, one of the things we found out this evening, it's been really handy to have Brady here, being part of the discussion. What we haven't had is Brady all the time, which is what we really needed. And we haven't had Howard Hughes, two of the biggest people involved in governance of Columbia. And right at the beginning, we did this whole evaluation, so should have done an evaluation of the other example Newtown communities in the area, which is Greenbelt, Montgomery County and Reston. So I think we need time to really get involved in the whole governance structure of Columbia. So we really clearly understand what that is. So, and that needs the villages to give input as well. And I think that's where we should be going next.
No, behind you. You are correct. It'll come back up your way and you'll pass forward next.
I'd just like to say that this has been a 14-month process that has been completely open. Every single meeting is streamable on YouTube. You can look back and watch every single word that we have said on all of this. And they have had that entire time to submit letters, comments, discussion, and they have. So they have had, and another key point that we have recommended as a task force is that we should be moving to make public input more efficient and cutting out too much public input. And I think we should lead by example and stick to the timeline that we've been tasked to fulfill.
Now, Brian, can you move that forward to Tim?
I just want to emphasize, we really need those key players to be part of the discussion, and they haven't been.
And then Toby, you'll come back for the microphone.
I think Joan covered many of the points that I was gonna make, but these are recommendations, just recommendations. And when I read this, may substantially impact the lives of all residents and property owners. We are making recommendations. There's so much more in this process. And I echo the point, 14 months. I don't know how many conversations I've had with neighbors, friends about this, just wanting to know, understanding this. That all the village boards have every opportunity to be a part of this, engage with this. Where are they? I mean, a lot of them some are represented here, but I just think that this is like putting an unnecessary step in this process that's just recommendations. I mean, the political process, if people want to get involved, that's when they need to get involved.
And then if you want to pass it to Karen behind you, and then Toby, you can take it back.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna talk, but then I just feel like we have to bend over backwards to include the public. I know everybody, oh, we've been here for 14 months. I get it. Yes, it's streamed on YouTube. So many people are busy. So many people have things going on. I can't tell you the number of people who are furious about the bike lanes on Oakland Mills Road. Because they weren't paying attention, and anybody who's ever seen a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or Earth got destroyed because you didn't see the notice hanging up at the post office, and so they blew up Earth. I think that we should bend over backwards to make sure people know. We need to meet them where they are because we have a lack of involvement And it just frustrates and angers people when, yes, these are not just recommendations. I took these 14 months very seriously. I think that they're gonna take these recommendations very seriously. All of these are gonna be considered. It's not that they're just gonna wave them off and whoever this they is that we keep talking about, they're not just gonna get waved off. They're gonna take these recommendations seriously. That's why these comments, making sure that everybody knows what's going on, I think is extra important. It puts an extra obligation on us to make sure that the public is very well informed because our recommendations are going to be taken seriously. Otherwise, why did I spend 14 months here?
Thank you, Karen. And I want to ask a clarifying question with this, and I'm kind of looking your way, Linda, because this is against an executive order, can this be a motion as it is, or should this be a recommendation to go to have an amendment to the executive order? Because I just want to make sure that what's done is done appropriately, so that if it is to go forward to the executive, that we're not doing something that then the county executive's like, well, you already made a decision and that was not the right place to do that. So if it's a motion to go to the county executive.
I believe that would be the appropriate motion
Okay.
is to go to the county executive, ask staff to go to the county executive to pursue consideration and response of the village boards until May 1st of 2027, at which time, you know, all the other things incorporated here, so.
Can I ask a procedure?
Yes, I'm gonna type real quick and.
No, you can, I have a procedure.
So just for my information, is it true that during the election period from maybe, I'll say the primaries to the end of November, there can be no discussion
Correct.
about,
There can be no zoning legislation.
Zoning decision can be made.
okay,
Can we go back to make sure, can you take that to Linda so that,
okay.
thank you. I just want to make sure those online
I
are.
I just want to understand the process here. So if there's no final decision made, can there still be preliminary discussions? What, do you understand my question?
I do. So where this stands right now is going to the blackout period, June 23rd until the new council takes effect.
Which is?
Whatever date they are sworn into office. Yeah, whatever that December date is. No final zoning decisions can be made. So the idea with this is and how we were utilizing this. So this report is going to be sent to the county executive. It will be sent to county council and it's going to go before planning board so they can hear what the recommendations are. Then when we begin to draft comprehensive rezoning, we will be utilizing these recommendations in the drafting of the zoning regulation amendments that take place for the Newtown district. This will then be supplemental information for the decisions, for the proposed changes that will be made for council to consider as they review the zoning regulation amendment as it pertains to Newtown.
And just so I understand, only want to understand here, about when, what time frame before this amendment or proposal were you
Sure.
thinking this was going to go to the county council?
So
February, March, April?
The actual amendment will go before the county council once we've worked with the new county executive and they determine that they want to begin the comprehensive rezoning process. But we are currently working internally on preparing for the new council to take effect and that they will want to move forward with comp rezoning, but I don't make that determination.
Okay, so, but you're talking spring or later, basically. You're not talking December.
Correct.
Okay, so you're already working on the comprehensive rezoning, is that correct?
Internally, yes. to get
Internally, I'm not
keep
asking-
everything ready, right? So when
Okay,
they-
I'm
when
just
they
trying to
come, we're ready go.
understand how all this is
Sure.
piecing together so that I can make an informed decision. Okay, thank you for that information.
So Craig, and that's why I wanted to ask the procedural question as well with the executive order. So the change that I put in here is the motion is for the Department of Planning and Zoning staff are to request the county the county executive to provide an addendum to the Newtown Task Force such that, and then everything else becomes your language. All right. Are you seeing that there's no further questions, or is that a motion, Greg? So the motion as written is Department of Planning and Zoning staff are to request the county executive provide an addendum to the Newtown Task Force such that the final report of the Newtown Task Force, including any dissent generated by one or more members of this task force, be delivered only as proposed recommendations to all Columbia Village boards for review, consideration, and response until May 1st, 2027, at which time the report dissents, if any, and responses, if any, be incorporated into the final report and be delivered to the county executive and county council as the actual final report of the task force. Is there a second? Second, Brian, okay, let me just do motion. All right, all those in favor of this motion, please signify by raising your green cards or raising your hands online, and that'll be represented in here. I'm gonna give a moment for online. All right, I have 4. Jeff is voting on behalf of Brady. So in favor is 4.
We got 5.
Right, Renee Teacher.
And 5. All those opposed, so everybody online, please put your hands down. Are all of the hands down? Okay, all those opposed, please raise your red cards, and online raise your hands if you're opposed. Seven. Okay, 7, so the motion fails. Thank you, Greg, for bringing that forward and for leading that discussion. The next I want to go to is, Brian, you at the beginning also said you had a question regarding structure of the report.
Yes.
And just before you speak, are there others that had a topic of conversation about the report as well, so I can kind of cue you up? I don't see any hands online either. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just think it should, the report on all the documents should be searchable. At the moment, they're not searchable. You can't find, for example, you've got the comments folder, and there's no way, there's no index to it. It needs to, should have an index. It should, so you could link to it. The whole thing should really be made really easy to use. So when people in the future go to use this document, they can find the relevant information.
So you're talking about having live links to get from one section to another. That will be incorporated. This is the draft version that went out. It will be an online report. And so all the appendices will also be linked, so you'll easily be able to move to it.
Well, the things in the comment log, that's, you can't just search for those items.
I'm sorry, there's
You
in the,
should be
oh,
able to
it's
search for, you should be able to search for everything. It's, I don't know if you tried to navigate it, it's not easy to find something. So if I put in, for example, CA study definition by Brady Greer, you can't find that. It doesn't come. So you should be able to do that. You should,
correct.
You should be able to go in Safari and it should find it. Most documents that the county have are all searchable, and this particular document's not searchable.
Absolutely. And Brian, thank you for bringing that up, because we were putting it through kind of the virtual binder area and a quick link, and we had decreased the size of it because initially it was going to email out, because that was one of the concerns, is that we were able to attach it as a file. All of the searchable components will be there, and I thank you for bringing that forward so that I could mention that. But it will be a searchable document, and then there will be links. It's going to have its own webpage, like many of the others, and even the general plan does, where each chapter will be a link. In the appendices, it'll be a link, and there'll be a one full document, because it'll be housed online, that people can get into it and search it. To maintain that feature, as we were trying to email it out, that doesn't exist within compressing it, but that will absolutely.
So it'll be an
part of it.
index for the comments, so you'll be able to.
Yes.
Yep,
It'll be, yes, it'll be.
So when you go into the comments that have an index, then you can go and find the page.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And it also needs to be able to work on multiple browsers. Like right now, the virtual binder really only works with Chrome. And Chrome is not the most secure browser, so it needs to be able to work on Safari and other products, not just.
Works on Firefox.
Well, just because you use Firefox, I use Safari, it should work on both of those.
Yeah, but you're saying it only works on Chrome.
Okay.
It worked best.
No, and I appreciate those two comments, so we'll put those in here, as making sure and addressing those. And again, thank you for bringing that up, Brian, because that was something I wanted to mention first thing this evening, is that the format that you received it with the draft watermarks, that it was flattened. There were a lot of components because of the sizing of it and how we needed to get it so everyone could see it, but that has been noted in here. Making sure it works on multiple browsers and that it is a searchable document. And then Brady.
Just acknowledging Brady's comments. Brady, did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, sorry, I probably should have talked about it while we were still discussing the original motion slash guardrail that I had proposed, but I did have one more proposed guardrail for the open space definition, and I popped it into the chat. And it's just because we don't know what the designations are going to be. And I guess I was just looking at, downtown Columbia, and since we had talked about tables of land use, I thought perhaps they might be breaking down the types of land use within open space like downtown Columbia. So I wanted to ensure that anything that might be deemed environmentally sensitive or a conservation area would still have the ability to have installation of pathways and boardwalks and linear parks, as long as they're integrated into an open space master plan and meet applicable environmental standards. So it's just kind of ensuring that we can continue to provide that connectivity throughout the entirety of the Newtown open space, whatever that might look like in the future, without having, as long as we, obviously follow the procedures and talk with MDE. Obviously, stewardship is something that we hold very important as well, but we would just wanted to ensure that we would still have that flexibility moving forward. I'm sorry?
Let me get this up onto the screen for everybody.
I did pop it in the, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the guide rail, and this is regarding open space definition, 8A. Is for the purposes of defined open space, including all sites considered environmentally sensitive or deemed conservation areas, installation of pedestrian and bicycle pathways, boardwalks, and linear parks shall be permitted as long as they are integrated into an open space master plan and meet applicable environmental standards.
Brady, this is Karen. Refresh my
Hey, Karen.
memory. Is there an open space master plan right now that we're working off of at the Columbia Association?
Great question. So we have open space master plans for almost every single area.
Right.
They're localized, right? So Dorsey would have their own and Long Reach has their own, things of that nature. So we do have open space master plans, and that's how the development of the villages was created, right? There was, where are the schools going? Where are the
Okay,
facilities
I get
going?
what you're talking
Parks
about. I get
going.
what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Okay. I was wondering if there was some sort of plan that the Columbia Association had about maintaining open space, because you're talking about boardwalks and other things. And I know that we were putting a boardwalk, is it around Lake Kit? So that's what I thought you were talking about.
Yes, so boardwalks are considered the standard when it comes to environmentally sensitive areas. So you'll hear discussions of boardwalks being installed around the Symphony Woods environmentally safe area or sensitive areas, as well as the Lake Kit area, because they're installed in ways that are taking the environment into consideration and making sure that we're not disturbing habitats. And so MDE is involved all along, and stewardship is held at the utmost priority.
So when you're talking about the open space master plan, are you talking about the final development plans for each village? I'm gonna let Brian ask too.
But Brady, there is a open space plan and maps and everything for the CA, for the whole of Columbia, right? That was
Correct.
worked on for about 6 months. And that's the thing that guides what's happening in open space. And you've got
Right,
the
yeah.
watershed management plan as well, which should be adhered to.
Correct. And so whenever we have, you know, an environmental stewardship, like right now we're updating our natural resource environment plan. We're also updating our pathway forward plan. Those plans that we have, the determinations made through those plans are what we use to consider updates and expansion possibilities and future projects within our open space master plans moving forward. So to answer your question specifically, Karen, it really kind of depends on what exactly we're talking about within the open space. Because when it comes to site development plans, I think the square footage disturbances around 5,000 square feet. So, you know, if we're expanding a pathway in a certain area, widening a pathway in a certain area, it might not require an SDP, but if we're remodeling one of our facilities, it would. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Is there
welcome.
any other discussion regarding this guide rail? Renee?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the open space definition.
Can you just speak to that again? She's right behind you.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the open space definition provided on the board.
Make a motion that this is a guide rail? Okay. So the motion that has been made and by Renee and seconded by Karen is to incorporate the guide rail for the purposes of defined open space, including all sites considered environmentally sensitive or deemed conservation areas, installation of pedestrian and bicycle pathways, boardwalks, and linear parks shall be permitted as long as they are integrated into an open space master plan and meet applicable environmental standards. So give me 1 second here. Oh, see, it's 15-minute warning till we break down and head home. Second by Karen. All right, all those in favor, is there any additional discussion? All those in favor, please raise your green cards or your hands online. I count 11 in favor. Everyone online, please go ahead and lower your hands. Are all of the hands lowered online? Okay, all those opposed, please raise your red card or raise your hand online. All right, we have 0, so motion passes. Thank you, Brady. Are there any final questions or discussion comments from the overall report?
One, is this working?
Doesn't sound like it.
It's a dead back, it says.
Can we get the pack over there instead?
Yeah, what I would, earlier in one of the meetings, Linda talked about input from Howard Hughes, and she said there was going to be high-level discussions, or had been, and I think this is relevant to our discussion. I think that we should have a report of what those high-level discussions are, whether they were both Howard Hughes or the Columbia Association. Thank you.
Great, I will go to Linda. She has provided that report out, but just as a reminder, if you can, thank you.
So yes, we did talk to Howard Hughes, and it was with regarding the original petitioner, and they did not mind at the time if the original petitioner had gone away. And that was really the simple conversation that we had with them.
What was happening?
Great.
They had no issues with the original petitioner going away, and that was part of our earlier discussions that was used to inform those early discussions about the original petitioner.
Thank you. Were there hands? And Nicole?
Yes, hi. David, I think, had to drop off. He wanted me to raise one thing. He said with regard to item 25 that in our last discussion, there had been a tie on that issue, and he had voted, I guess, by email because he was struggling with the hand raise. And he did say that he did not want to get rid of the exemption for downtown relating to the MHIU. So he didn't feel that his vote was counted, and he felt that if it was, it would have failed. Anyway, that's what he said.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. Unfortunately, the email vote had to be in person or represented in person in some manner, as we're doing in this way. And so that motion was called and the vote was called, and that motion failed because it was a tie. But thank you very much for bringing that up. That is noted here and will be in the recordings as well. All right, seeing no further, it sounds like we need to mute somebody. Thank you. Seeing no further comments regarding the report, I will ask for a motion to approve the recommendations report with the addendums as we discussed this evening. Fran has made that motion. Is there a second? Ryan is seconding that. And let me actually just put a little text box in so we can motion Fran. When I'm doing it without my glasses on, so. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the recommendations report with the amendments, the addendums as discussed this evening, please raise your hands online and your green cards in the room. All right, in favor is 8. All those opposed, please, hold on one second. Everybody's hand online is lowered. Perfect. All those opposed, please raise your red cards or raise your hand online. And that is 4. So motion has passed and we have approved the recommendations report. So thank you, everybody. Moving into, let me actually go back to the actual slideshow now. Moving forward, this was just a note again with the task force vision. These were the things from our very first meetings last June, and then June and July of a year ago with the people and community, diversity and inclusivity, open space and green space, aid and maintaining the spirit of Columbia. We have absolutely discussed each of those and incorporated those within the recommendations. Embrace the future while honoring the values that Columbia was based upon. And I do want to thank especially Greg and Brian for bringing that history forward as you have that as a lived experience to talk about the values Columbia was based upon while we are looking at what the future can have as well. And Columbia being a place that needs to value its uniqueness based on its history. And we really touched on that even tonight as well as we added some guide rails for those open space definitions and really talked about in each person, while some of those recommendations had descending viewpoints, each person really addressed that each time. And so we come back to this task force vision because it is something that everybody had a say in as we looked at this and moved this forward. So with the wrap up, I will turn it over for Linda to do a wrap up here.
First, I'm gonna do a dance here. All right. Again, I want to thank everyone for the hard work that you put in for the last 14 or so months on this Newtown task force. This report will very much be used. You did the hard work. You did the hard work for the county with this task force. So it gives us a really good basis as we move forward in reviewing the zoning regulations for Newtown on how to move those regulations forward based on these recommendations. So I really do thank you. And I really want to thank the staff who do bring expertise in the planning field and in the facilitation field. We couldn't have done it really without them. I mean, Sarah and Jeff and Kristen worked very hard to get you all the information that you needed to get to this point. Hannah with her support and joining us in those meetings, and will be probably one of the key people that helps with the actual zoning portion because she's part of our zoning team. And I want to thank Jen and her team for their expertise as well in the facilitation realm that they served for us. I really appreciate all your hard work and efforts, and I'm very proud of this report. I think you all did an outstanding job, and this will be, like I said, the hard work is done for us, so now we can utilize this moving forward.
Thanks.
Can I just ask when can we get a copy of the final report? As soon as it's
Yes.
finished up, yeah, but I mean, you already have dates or something, so is it gonna be June 26th or?
So from our deliverable as the consultant, our deliverable to this group in here is no later than June 15th. And so that will be something, yes, is that next week? It's a week, right? Yeah, I think that's.
week after
The
next.
week after, it was like Monday, the week after next. And so at that time,
Paper copies printed, what we will do is we will post it online and send you a link letting you know that it was not posted.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
That's all, just so I can.
So, and then truly, as we say, we'll finalize with these comments incorporated, that goes on June 15th. And then an overview of the final report will be presented at the July 9th planning board. And that really brings us to.
Wait, have one thing.
Oh, yes.
I was rather a frequent flyer with asking for information, so I wanted to thank the department for putting up with me, I guess, and answering all my questions.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And while I can't give you all the time back from the last two meetings, you are getting 6 minutes back of your meeting. Thank you again.
Congratulations, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Jeff Delmonico was really well rested for somebody with an Xavier.
Yeah, she had it first, so.